Cool, so this is a Attack on Titan final season episode 1 recap for those of us that don't have 1 hour to rewatch the whole thing. It's adapted from chapters 131 to 134 in the manga. It opens with Eren waking up under that tree, you know the tree I'm talking about. Personally, I think this opening scene is a future memory in the past, simply because Mikasa tells Eren she'll see him later. I don't see her saying this to him in our own timeline of the past, since Eren has Mikasa's Mumu button, and I don't see her going anywhere without him. It looks more like she's putting him to sleep to me. The following scene draws parallels to the very first episodes and seems like a past memory from an alternate timeline where Eren wakes up crying from his future memories. They build up the tragedy of Ramsey and Halil by giving us more exposition. They show them hiding their life savings, and the dialogue in the scene is full of hope, but it's also sad, highlighting the struggles of the refugees in Mali. As they are hiding their savings, they start to hear commotion from people fleeing hysterically, and they turn around to see Titans arriving in their town. I just love the way the anime built up to this point. It gives a real rush of thrill. We get a flashback to a scene with Ramsey where Eren feels like he's a hypocrite and is trying to help Ramsey, but he realizes he's going to kill him in the future anyway. Voila. He tries to walk away, but in the end he couldn't help himself and ended up saving Ramsey. Then when Ramsey thanks him, he is moved to tears, unable to hold back his guilt. He now tries to start apologizing and explaining to justify his future actions to Ramsey, who obviously doesn't know what's going on. Then we go back to the present, which ties the chains of events together nicely. We see the fear of the people when they realize that Titans can actually climb mountains and they know that their death is imminent. Ramsey and Halil are now trying to escape, and we hear Eren's voice over admitting how disappointed he was in reality and how he just wanted everything to disappear. Ramsey's death is very heartbreaking, and we see Ymir watching the whole thing. I believe Ymir was watching Ramsey's death because she saw the interaction between Eren and Ramsey, so she knew he was someone of importance to Eren. It was a small form of acknowledgement for Ramsey in his final moments. May his soul rest in peace. Next, chaos ensues, which is depicted perfectly with the OST in the episode. They really captured the horror of what's happening in every scene perfectly. The Titans are trampling and destroying objects, buildings, people with absolutely no regard or emotion. They are the perfect weapons, destroying everything in their path without hesitation. In the next few scenes, we see Eren's dialogue showing how jealous he was of the people outside the walls because they had obtained the greatest freedom. They had fiery water, lands of ice and sandy snowfields, and to Eren, who was born inside the walls, this was the epitome of freedom which he had been robbed of from birth. This monologue leads us to the freedom scene that gives us an insight to how much Eren has absolutely lost it. We can see the joy on his face when he marvels over the blood on the ground from the clouds, and he exclaims that this is true freedom. Next is a very short scene in the past where child Eren is faced with adult Armin, who looks at him with utter disgust. This link is broken when Annie makes her moves. She thanks Armin for talking to her while she was in the crystal before basically asking why he was actually speaking to her. The question leads to some cute wholesome revelations where Armin admits that he just wanted to see her, and they both start blushing, and that's about as wholesome as this episode is gonna get, guys. After that, Annie tries to tell Armin it's because he was a good person, because she's trying to make it as unromantic as possible, but Armin makes it clear that he doesn't like being called a good person. This is because of all the people he's killed and the terrible things he's done. The line between a good and a bad person has become blurred and muddled up in Attack on Titan, making it more realistic. At Odaha, the scouts accompanied by Kiyomi are preparing the flying boat for takeoff. Falco regains consciousness and Annie has lost her will to live. She says she has no desire for conflict and wishes for peace in her final moments. She asks Mikasa if she's going to kill Eren, and she says that she's not going to do it, that she's only going to bring him back to the path that he strayed from. The goat Levi then wakes up to interrogate Yelena, who discloses that Eren's next target is going to be Fort Salta. This information is definitely not something she would have given up before the rumbling, but it's clear that her spirit has been crushed by the possibility of losing the love of her life, Zeke. When the flying boat is almost ready, Peak asks Kiyomi to take care of Gabi and Falco because she's going to confine them to stop them from following the adults. They show Levi struggling to hold his sword and everybody is looking at him, pitying him, but he says that all he needs is 2 fingers, which was turned into a meme by the Honey anime community. Outside the ship, we get what feels like the last exchange between Annie and Reiner. He actually apologizes to her and Bertold for forcing them to continue their mission that day, One thing I like about Reiner, if there's one thing he's gonna do, it's take accountability for his actions. A real man, a real man. The whole exchange between Annie and Reiner is very wholesome, and then we move on to Hanj, who has just been rejected by Peak. After teasing her about it, Levi and Hanj watch the crew finish off the last preparations for the boat. Hanj asks Levi what he thinks their crawling comrades would think of their actions, whether they would approve, and Levi tells her to stop sounding like Erwin. In the next scene, Onyakapon finishes the boat and then Flock shows up out of nowhere and he starts shooting out of nowhere. It's crazy. The bullets hit the boat and it leaves holes in the fuel tank, but Mikasa quickly takes Flock out. Flock uses his final moments to beg them. He says that everyone on the island will be killed and that their devils are their only hope of surviving. Then the rumbling arrives and everyone is trying to decide who's going to stall the Titans when Hanj steps up. She says she won't let them waste another shred of Titan power and offers to stall them herself. In her final moment, Hanj appoints Armin as the 15th commander of the Scout Regiment and tells Levi that she wants to look as cool as possible. Realizing that he's about to lose yet another comrade, his final words to Hanj is, "Dedicate your heart." Hanji's death was poetic. She was one of my favorite characters and her last words were, "Titans are truly marvelous." Her love for Titans was unparalleled by any other character in Attack on Titan, and as someone who dedicated her life to studying Titans and someone who loved them so much, I think this was one of the most fitting deaths of the series. Her sacrifice bought them enough time to seal some holes, add some fuel in the tank, and escape very narrowly. Reading this sequence in the manga was heartbreaking, and the anime captured the horror and anguish of the crew perfectly in the moment of her death. Rest in peace, Hanj. Hanj's death leads to one of my favorite scenes in the episode because of how beautifully written it is. Hanj wakes up to all of her fallen comrades, including my favorite Erwin, who tells her that she's fulfilled her role. As she's helped up from the ground, she complains about the struggles of being a commander and Erin's idiocy. In this scene, Hanji's fears about the support of her fallen comrades is put to rest. When she wakes up in death, she no longer has a shred of doubt as soon as Erwin confirms she's done her duty. It's subtle and beautiful because he doesn't explicitly confirm that she's done the right thing, but he shows his approval with the first thing he says. This is true to Erwin's character. He says just enough to get the point across, not too little and not too much. Hanj and Erwin reunite as fallen comrades, and Erwin acknowledges her struggles, telling her to tell them all about it. And chapter 1 ends here. Chapter 2 of the episode Sinners opens with the flight crew facing their next hurdle, which is being low on fuel. But Onyankopon, being the reliable Ghanaian king that he is, promises to get the crew to Erin in one piece. Armin is already in commander mode and he calls for a strategy meeting immediately because they are trying to figure out how they are going to stop Erin. This is when they are all transported to the paths and they all see it as an opportunity to use some Tokno Jutsu on Erin. Erin instantly crushes their dreams of negotiation and he tells them he's not going to stop the rumbling and they have to fight him or kill him. As the conversation is happening, they're actually trying to reach Erin but they are unable to reach him. When they collapse back to reality, Levi immediately asks Armin what he's going to do. Then the scene cuts back to Falco. He's telling Annie about a dream that he had where he sees the Jaw Titan flying. He feels that he can manifest Beast Titan characteristics because he ingested Zeke's fluid. He believes that his memories are from Zeke and he's shown flying high above the clouds, but the memories are so real to him that he believes he can genuinely do the same thing. Next scene is the train heading to Fort Salta. We see Annie's father who is planning to escape using the airships. On the train is also Gabby's parents, Ike's dad and Reiner's mom, who are all trying to escape the rumbling. When they arrive, they find no airships left. As they are panicking, one of them realizes that the airships are actually headed towards the Titans. At this point, we get one of the best speeches in the series from a Malian commander, Secretary Mula, who explains how this is their last hope at saving humanity and how each adult had a hand in the calamity that is before them in the form of Erin. Mula vows that if they have a chance to survive by some miracle, he promises to never make the same mistake again and urges others to make the same vow. But as soon as the airships arrive close to Erin, he sees them immediately and the soldiers try to drop the bombs, but we get a big blast of a transformation and something that looks like Zeke immediately attacks them and destroys all of them within seconds though. So everybody back at Fort Salta are horrified and they've all lost hope until one small child notices something thing appear in the cloud, and the camera cuts to the crew on the plane. So this same Zeke Beast Titan attacks the plane as well, and they all notice him. So they all jump out, and Armin commands them to all focus on taking Zeke out. I want to give a shout out to Onyankopon for getting them as close to Eren as possible with little fuel. Rainer is the first to reach Zeke and transform, and the people back in Fort Salta see this. The final scenes are the crew landing on Eren's body, and the look in Armin's eyes showing his resolve. We hear Armin's inner monologue where he tells Eren he still has another question to ask him. He asks Eren, in what way are you free, before the episode ends. This was a short 10-minute recap of the previous episode, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, thank you, bye!